The distress beacon pierced through centuries of silence. Lisa's eyes snapped open, her augmented irises adjusting instantly to the darkness of the cryopod. Around her, the hibernation bay hummed to life, ancient systems groaning as they awakened from their 300-year slumber. Through the frosted glass, she could see row upon row of pods illuminating in sequence, each containing a soldier like herself, humanity's finest, preserved for a war they'd hoped would never come. But it had come. The neural uplink fed information directly into her cerebral cortex. Earth had fallen. The Kashari Confederation, those chitinous bastards from the Andromeda sector, had finally made their move. They'd swept through the outer colonies like a plague, their superior numbers overwhelming humanity's desperate defenses. And now, according to the beacon, only one human battalion remained, outgunned, outmanned, and calling for the old guard. Lisa's pod hissed open. She stepped out, her enhanced muscles remembering their purpose despite the long sleep. Around her, other soldiers emerged, their faces grim with understanding. They were the Generation Zero super soldiers, created during humanity's first expansion into the stars when optimism still colored their dreams. They'd volunteered for this, to sleep until humanity's darkest hour. "Status report," she commanded, her voice carrying the authority of a captain who'd seen real war. "All pods functional, Captain Martinez," came Lewis's voice from across the bay. Her lieutenant looked exactly as she remembered, sharp features, calculating eyes, and that slight smirk that never quite disappeared even in crisis. 247 soldiers awake and operational. We're on Station Omega-7, Mars orbit. The beacon. Coming from Earth's surface, Sector 7. Last transmission indicates approximately 2,000 human soldiers holding the line against. He paused, checking his readout. Estimated 40,000 Kashari ground forces. The numbers were impossible. Humanity had lost. But that was the thing about humans that the galaxy never quite understood. Humans didn't know when to quit. Lisa strode to the armory, her enhanced body moving with predatory grace. The other soldiers followed, silent and focused. They'd been designed for this, genetically modified, cybernetically enhanced, trained beyond the limits of ordinary human endurance. They were from an era when humanity had looked at the stars with hope instead of fear, when they'd prepared for threats with careful planning rather than desperate scrambling. The Kashari had made a mistake. They'd assumed humanity's weakness lay in their fragile biology, their brief lifespans, their emotional volatility. They'd pushed and pushed, believing that eventually, humans would break. They'd forgotten to check the history files. "Suit up," Lisa ordered. "Full combat loadout. Lewis, prep the dropships." Captain, one of the younger soldiers, though younger, was relative when you'd been frozen for 3 centuries, spoke up. The odds, Lisa interrupted, sliding her helmet over her head, have never mattered to humans. That's what makes us dangerous." The dropship screamed through Earth's atmosphere 30 minutes later. Below them, the planet burned. Cities lay in ruins, orbital defenses were shattered, and the Kashari swarm covered the landscape like a dark tide. But in Sector 7, a small cluster of human signatures held firm, a defiant spark refusing to be extinguished. Lisa watched through the dropship's sensors as the scene unfolded. The human soldiers were pinned in what looked like an old military complex, surrounded on all sides. Kashari warriors, 8-legged armored horrors with plasma weaponry, pressed forward in waves. The humans fought with everything they had, but it was clearly only a matter of time. 30 seconds to drop, the pilot announced. Lisa felt the familiar calm settle over her. This was what she'd been made for, what they'd all been made for. Not to prevent war, but to ensure that when humanity faced extinction, they wouldn't face it alone. "Remember the protocol," she told her soldiers. "We're not here to win. We're here to make them regret ever attacking Earth." The dropships hit the ground like meteors. What followed wasn't a battle, it was a demonstration. The Kashari had fought regular humans and found them wanting. But Generation Zero wasn't regular. Lisa moved through the enemy ranks like death incarnate, her enhanced reflexes making her appear to teleport between targets. Her weapon, an old railgun that would have shattered a normal human's arms, sang with each discharge. Lewis led the second wave, his tactical genius apparent as he orchestrated a perfect pincer movement. The Kashari, used to overwhelming opponents, with numbers, suddenly found themselves being systematically dismantled by soldiers who were faster, stronger, and far angrier than they'd anticipated. The surviving human battalion watched in stunned silence as their reinforcements carved through the enemy. One of them, a young lieutenant with blood-soaked armor, approached Lisa as the last Kashari fell. Who are you?" she asked. Lisa removed her helmet, meeting the lieutenant's eyes. "We're humanity's insurance policy, the soldiers your great-great-grandparents made when they still believed in tomorrow. But Earth has fallen. We've lost." "Earth's buildings have fallen," Lisa corrected, surveying the ruins around them. "Earth's people still stand, and as long as one human draws breath, we haven't lost. That's the thing about humans, we're really bad at staying dead." Above them, more dropships screamed through the atmosphere. 247 soldiers wouldn't win the war. But they'd buy time. They'd inspire. They'd show the galaxy that humanity's obituary had been written prematurely. Lewis approached, his armor scorched, but his eyes bright. "Captain, receiving transmissions from other old guard stations. Looks like our beacon woke them all up. We've got approximately 50,000 Generation Zero soldiers coming online." Lisa smiled. 50,000 super soldiers against the Kashari Confederation's millions. Still impossible odds. "Perfect. Send them coordinates," she ordered. "And transmit this message to every human in the galaxy. The old guard is awake, and we're very disappointed in our guests." The young lieutenant who'd asked the question earlier stepped forward. "What do we do now?" Lisa looked at the ruins of humanity's homeworld, at the soldiers who'd refused to surrender, at the impossible task ahead of them. She thought about 300 years of sleep, about the world her generation had tried to build, about the promise they'd made to protect humanity's future. "Now," she said, "now we remind the galaxy why humans don't stay down. Now we show them that mercy was the only thing keeping us civilized. Now we fight." And in the cold calculations of the Kashari command, a new variable appeared, one they hadn't accounted for. Humanity, cornered and desperate, had just become exponentially more dangerous. The super soldiers of old had opened their eyes, and the galaxy would learn to fear what humanity could become.